This is my first video update coming to you from Athens, Greece on this Thursday morning. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with a big missile strike from Russia, hitting just about every city and region in Ukraine. Not only missiles, but drones as well. They took out the thermal power plant in Kiev. That has been confirmed. A lot of videos of that thermal power plant on fire. From what I understand, all of Kharkiv is without power and electricity as well. Something similar going on in Odessa. Just a really big Russian missile strike that took place late in the evening until early morning today. Emergency shutdowns in Kharkiv region, Odessa region, Lviv region, and Dnipropetrovsk. So the Russians actually used, from what I'm getting, they actually used a Kinzhal hypersonic missile in Kiev as well, which is interesting. I don't think the Russians have used many hypersonic missiles, but according to the early news reports from the Ukraine military, they did use a hypersonic missile to hit critical infrastructure in Kiev. So I don't know what this latest missile strike, what its goals are, but I would guess that it's about degrading the movement of troops and supplies and resources of the Ukraine military to the Donbass in order to either hamper or slow down the military. I get distracted from the pigeons just fly over me and then they land right next to me, and it's completely distracting. They start at the church up there, and then they just fly all the way down right here. Anyway, what? Focus, Alex. I think this is about just slowing down and hampering the ability of the Ukraine military to get troops and resources to the Donbass, either for this counteroffensive to break through the cauldron in Bakhmut, or for this spring counteroffensive that allegedly is taking place towards the Zaporozhye region. I imagine it's connected to that, but I don't know. That's just a guess. That is just a guess. So let's talk now about Georgia and the protests in Tbilisi in front of the parliament. I am getting reports that this draft law on foreign agents has been withdrawn. Draft law on foreign agents withdrawn from the Georgian parliament, according to the ruling party. So if that is the case, then I would imagine that the protests would stop, right? Because all of these protests were about this foreign agents draft law, which the EU and the US is saying is Russian sponsored, but the draft law is actually modeled after the US Foreign Agents Act, the FARA Act. That's what Georgia is modeling this draft law after, which is basically saying that if your entity, your organization, NGO, university, whatever, if this entity is being funded by a foreign government, foreign actors, 20% in the case of the Georgian law, then it has to register as a foreign agent. which is really no different than the U.S. FARA Act. Actually, I think the U.S. FARA Act, the Foreign Agents Act, is a lot more strict than this Georgia law. But anyway, supposedly, allegedly, the reports that I'm getting is that this draft law has now been withdrawn. So the protests should stop. That would be the logical conclusion, but I don't know. Maybe this is just the beginning of what will be a regime change in Georgia, or some sort of color revolution in Georgia, so as to not only push Georgia towards the European Union, but in order to get some sort of military activity in Georgia, specifically targeted at South Ossetia and Abkhazia. Look at this tweet from Visegrad 24. I'm not sure if this is attributed to some collective West leader, or if this is just a tweet that Visegrad 24 put out there, but it says, "The time has come to restore Georgia's territorial integrity and throw out the Russian soldiers stationed in South Ossetia and Abkhazia." So, are we seeing the end of protests because this draft law was withdrawn, or is this the beginning of a color revolution and some sort of catastrophic military adventure? I don't know. I'm hoping this is the end of the protests. If they don't want this foreign agents draft law to go through, then so be it. This tweet from The Real Fly, I think, sums it up perfectly. The people of Georgia demand foreign meddling in their country. There you have it. That is exactly right. If people want foreign meddling in their country, then go ahead and have your foreign meddling. Because we all know, let's be honest, we all know that the money that goes into NGOs and universities and all of these organizations, whatever they are, we all know that they come from the collective West. Russia doesn't have the resources or the desire to pour money into all of these entities and organizations. None of them are Russian run, owned, or operated. Whether you're looking at Amnesty International or whether you're looking at the Open Society or the Open Democracy Foundation of George Soros, whatever it is, we all know that the money comes from the collective West. In Greece or in Cyprus, all of the money for the NGOs, for the universities, for all of these organizations comes from the collective West. It's just a fact. I'm not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing. I'm just stating facts. So the people that were upset about this foreign agents draft bill that went in front of the parliament in Georgia are the people that support the activities of the collective West because they didn't want their stuff out there. They didn't want their financial statements to show that the American University in Georgia, I'm just making something up. I don't know if there's an American University in Georgia. If there is, it's purely out of coincidence, but the American University in Georgia is funded by the U.S. State Department. That's what the financial statements would show. And thus they would have to sign up as a foreign agent or some sort of charity or NGO or whatever it is, whatever, Amnesty International in Georgia or whatever. That's just the way things work in the world today. In most countries, all of this stuff is funded by the collective West. Money printing, to be quite honest. The U.S. taxpayer They're the ones that fund all of these things, which are there, in my opinion, which are there to push their collective West agenda. They're the ones, the NGOs, the universities, the charities, all of these entities and organizations. They're the ones that pass out the flags, the EU flags, and in this case, the Ukraine flags and stuff like that. They're the ones that pass these things out during these protests, and that's how all of this works. Anyway, I'm not going to get further into this. We will now see. We will see if the protests stop, or we will see if this is just the beginning. I really, really hope for the good of Georgia, for the good of the people of Georgia, that the protests stop. You want foreign meddling in your country? Fine. No problem. Foreign meddling it is. Now, let's not have violence, let's not have protests, and let's not have any type of catastrophic military adventure targeted at South Ossetia or Abkhazia. It's not going to turn out well if that happens. So that's all. That's all I have to say about what's going on in Georgia. If the news about the foreign agents law being withdrawn is inaccurate, then my mistake. But the early news that I received just now, early this morning here in Athens, is that the foreign agents draft bill has been withdrawn. So let's see what happens next in Georgia. Just one final note. The day before the anti-Russian riots erupted in Georgia, that's what they're calling them, anti-Russian, even though, once again, the foreign agents law is actually being disputed by the collective West, but it's modeled after the FARA Act. I mean, it's modeled after the U.S. FARA Act. But anyway, they've been labeling these the anti-Russian riots. Assistant Secretary of State Todd Robinson was in Tbilisi to address a women in policing event. Robinson was also the acting ambassador to Venezuela during the U.S.-backed attempted coup in 2018. Isn't that interesting? Coincidence, I'm sure. I'm sure it's just coincidence. Here's a tweet from Samantha Power of USAID. Georgia's proposed foreign agents law gravely threatens Georgia's Euro-Atlantic future and the ability of Georgians to fulfill their own economic, social, and other aspirations. I call upon the Georgia Parliament to drop these proposed laws. It's all about Georgia joining the EU. Georgia's not even in Europe. Why would it join the EU? It's not even in Europe. The European Union is becoming like Eurovision. You know, Eurovision used to be a song contest for just countries in Europe. Now it covers everything. Now it covers Armenia and Azerbaijan and even Australia. Even Australia submits songs to the Eurovision Song Contest. That's what the EU is trying to become. Let's see here. So that's what's going on in Georgia. And how about the statements from the Polish president, Mr. Duda? What did Mr. Duda say? Because he says a lot of interesting things. Mr. Duda, he really does say some interesting things. Let's see. Polish President Andrzej Duda called the destruction of Nord Stream useful for Europe. Quote, I don't know if it's possible to say that it was pro-Ukrainian sabotage, but I will say that the Nord Stream ceases to exist and it will not be possible to supply gas to Europe through it. Then it will be beneficial for Europe. It will be useful. That is what the Polish president said. Yeah, it's really useful for our citizens to pay 5, 6, 7 times more for their gas and electricity and their oil and everything else. That's really useful for Europe. Really, really useful. Of course, I'm Andrzej Duda. I'm a globalist, elitist, uber powerful, uber rich guy, and I really couldn't care if the citizens have to pay 5 or 10 times more for their gas. And by the way, they pay 5 times more for their gas and their oil. And this is even the citizens of Poland. You are paying 5 and 10 times more for your gas and oil. And you know what? It's still Russian. How about that? It is still Russian. Well, maybe some of it may be from Norway, but we're not going to talk about Norway, are we? Just like the New York Times site, the Washington Post, the Times, the BBC, they don't talk about Norway either in their Nord Stream reporting, do they? It's very interesting how all of these collective West mainstream media outlets are not talking about Norway. Seymour Hersh says that Norway was the sidekick of the Biden White House when they blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. But nope, the collective West mainstream media, NYT, the Times, Site, WAPO, they've conveniently left Norway out. Then again, they want us to believe that Gilligan, the skipper, the professor, Marianne, the millionaire, and his wife, they took the SS Minnow to the Baltic and blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Yeah, sure, why not? Just another adventure on Gilligan's Island. By the way, isn't the yacht from Poland? So I don't know, President Duda. Wouldn't it be interesting to perhaps find out what this yacht rental company, what exactly is this yacht rental company, and maybe ask them a couple of questions? I mean, I would think that this is very high up on the priority of the Polish government, given that EU, NATO territory was attacked. An attack on one is an attack on all, isn't it? So shouldn't the Polish authorities, shouldn't they find this yacht company and, maybe ask them some questions? I think that would be a pretty logical step. Gilligan, the professor, the millionaire, and his wife, they went out to the Baltic with 1,000 tons of explosives. And then Gilligan went under and blew it all up. Oh, man. I don't think Poland is going to really investigate this, are they? They're too busy placing Spanish journalists in prison and not charging them with anything, because they say that the Spanish journalist is a spy because he was reporting against the collective West narrative. I'm talking about Pablo Gonzalez. I'm digging into this story more and more each day, and what they've done to this man. These are your EU values. These are your EU values. According to Poland's minister, according to the spokesperson for Poland's minister, coordinator of special services, Pablo Gonzalez carried out an operation for the benefit of Russia, profiting from his status of a journalist, which enabled him to freely travel around the world and Europe, including military conflict zones. So Poland arrested this guy, from what I understand, because he did some reporting where in the Donbass. Is that what I'm understanding? And so Poland arrested him, and they still haven't really charged him with anything. They're still sifting through the evidence. So where's the Spanish government in all of this? I mean, he's a Spanish citizen. Where's the Spanish government? Family of friends of Gonzalez, they say he should be freed immediately, or at the very least tried. I have no doubt he is not a spy, said Juan Teixeira, a Spanish journalist who traveled with him to many countries over a dozen years. Anyway, so That's the latest from Nord Stream. Zelensky, he's inviting Kevin McCarthy to visit Ukraine. He's inviting the House Speaker to come and visit Ukraine. This is a story from CNN, and all of this is because Kevin McCarthy wants some oversight on all of the billions and billions that get sent to Ukraine and just kind of disappear. So Zelensky, he invited McCarthy, and McCarthy said, in response to Zelensky's invitation, let's be very clear about what I said. No blank checks, okay? So from that perspective, I don't have to go to Ukraine to understand where there's a blank check or not. I will continue to get my briefings and others, but I don't have to go to Ukraine or Kiev to see it. And my point has always been, I won't provide a blank check or anything. There was a point in time when McCarthy was wearing the Ukraine flag pins as well, but I don't know. This is like a new and improved version of McCarthy. I'm down with this version of McCarthy. He gave Tucker Carlson the 40,000 hours of January 6th video footage. Everyone is freaking out. Well, the Uniparty, McConnell, Schumer, MSNBC, CNN, they're freaking out. Too much transparency for the American people. They're seeing too much. They shouldn't be allowed to see these recordings, which actually belong to the American people. I mean, these are recordings that belong to the people of the United States of America, but they shouldn't see these recordings. Nah, it's too much transparency. You had Chuck Schumer actually call for the censorship and removal of a journalist, of Tucker Carlson. How is that not a First Amendment violation when you have the Senate Majority Leader calling for the censorship of stories, of news, of videos? Let the American people see the videos, and they could come to their own conclusion. If they think that the guy with the horns, Chewbacca, whatever they call him, if they think that he was being violent, then let the American people decide. If they think that he was not being violent, then let the American people decide. But obviously, evidence was withheld during that guy's trial, and probably during the trial of all the other people that are being held in prisons in the U.S. for whatever happened that day. Why was this evidence withheld? Why were these recordings hidden from the people of the U.S., from the lawyers, from the courts? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but doesn't sound right to me. More transparency. Isn't that what the U.S. is all about? More transparency. That's what I remember America being about. Showing the people everything and letting the people decide. Letting the people make up their minds as to how they see things. So you have videotape. You have it. Tucker Carlson showed it. People can come to their own conclusion. Tucker has his opinion. MSNBC will have their opinion. And the American people, they can watch it and they can have their opinion. They can make up their own minds. Anyway, what was I talking about? Kevin McCarthy. Yeah, Kevin McCarthy. So he handed over the footage to Tucker Carlson, and now he's taking this stance against Zelensky. He is snubbing an invitation from Zelensky. Wow, that's a first. Him and Orban. So far, Orban has not visited Ukraine either. So you have Orban and McCarthy. The two politicians in the collective West who have snubbed Zelensky. What did Zelensky say when he invited McCarthy? This is what he said. This is what he told CNN. He said, Mr. McCarthy, he has to come here to see how we work, what's happening here, what war caused us. which people are fighting now, who are fighting now, and then after, make your assumptions. Visiting Ukraine, Zelensky continued, would help McCarthy with his position. Yeah, because Zelensky wants the money. He wants the money without the audit. Give me the money without the audit. Just like what the NGOs and the universities and the charities want in Georgia. We want the money without the audit, without the financial statements. Right? Zelensky says, McCarthy, come to Ukraine. Come to Ukraine and see for yourself. And you will see that money well spent. Well spent. I only use money to buy 35 homes. Only 35 homes. The rest of the money goes to people. You will see that your 120 billion is money well spent. Only 35 homes. So I invite you, Kevin McCarthy, come to Ukraine. Come and see how we spend your 120 billion US dollars. And when you come, McCarthy, to visit, can you bring me some money? Maybe a couple billion? There's a house in Hollywood that I would like to buy. So, I mean, yeah, they want the money without the audits. Yep. Of course. It would be nice to get money without audit and taxes and, and all of that stuff. Yeah, sure, great. Anyway, let's, do I have anything else? I'm trying to think, do I have any other stories to get to this Thursday morning in Athens, Greece? I covered Georgia, I covered McCarthy, I covered the missile strike, Russia running out of weapons, running out of ammo, using shovels. Yes, one more story and we'll do a very quick clown world. Politico reported that the Ukraine pilots that are training, well, that allegedly, according to NBC News, were in the US, in Arizona, training to fly the F-16s. Actually, Politico is saying that those pilots are being trained to fly MiG fighters, and they're trying to figure out ways to equip these MiG fighters with American high-precision missiles. They're trying to engineer the MiGs to use American missiles. And I believe Slovakia, they already said that they're going to give something like 10 or 12 MiGs to Ukraine. So is that the plan? That's the plan. Instead of F-16s, we're going to go with the MiGs, and we're going to equip the MiGs with missiles so that we can do some sort of damage to Crimea or Russia or whatever. Because Russia doesn't have any air defense, and they don't have pilots that can counter the Ukrainian pilots or anything like that. But anyway, that's the plan. Check out this tweet from War Monitor. I think this sums it up perfectly. This sums up this Politico MiG fitted with American precision missiles perfectly. War Monitor says, the objective truth regarding artillery shells, Ukraine is living paycheck to paycheck while Russia is a billionaire. And that's not only about artillery shells, that carries over to all of the weapons. The collective West does not want to give F-16s to Ukraine, and so they're trying to come up with other creative ways to deal with their Air Force needs. And this is one of those ways. Paycheck to paycheck. That is how they're dealing with Ukraine, and that is not how you win a war, obviously. You don't need to be a military expert to understand that. So let's just do a really quick clown world. And it's not so much a clown world than it is, let's say, a meme, which I find absolutely hilarious. It's of Joe Tzu and his book, The Art of War. And it says, blow up your ally's crucial infrastructure, then frame a different ally for the attack. Oh, I love that. I love that meme. Anyway, that's the video, guys. The Duran.locals.com. We are on Rockfin as well. We are on Rumble as well. And we're on Telegram and BitChute and ODYSEE. And my channel is on all of those platforms. And Alexander's channel is on all of those platforms. And the Duran's channel is on all of those platforms. And the Duran shop, 10% off. Use the code Good Day. Take care.